Hello, everyone. Welcome to this session. We are starting now. We have a very interesting agenda. So I would like to start in a very high and positive note with Clara Arpa, board member and president of UN Global Compact Spain. And Clara, please, the microphone is yours.
Thank you so much. Bienvenidos. It's a pleasure to be here presenting the Corporate Leadership in Climate Action event. Record temperatures and increasingly frequent and dangerous extreme weather events remind us that climate change is a reality that needs immediate action. At the UN Global Compact, we strongly believe in collaboration as a tool for transformation. Addressing the current climate change challenge can only be done with the effort and leadership of all actors in society. The UN Global Compact recently launched Forward Faster to fast-track ambitious corporate action in 5 areas: gender equality, climate action, living wage, finance and investment, and water resilience. For climate action, the UN Global Compact is calling on companies to set credible, science-based net zero targets to drastically reduce emissions and to take action for the just transition to ensure that transition to a net zero economy is as fair, as equitable as possible. Today, we analyze the involvement of the Spanish business sector in major climate action initiatives. We take the pulse of the performance of companies through programs that lead climate action. And we also want to make visible those companies that are committed to transforming toward business models that are aligned with limiting global warming to 1.5°C, just as science is calling for. In this context, the UN Global Compact continues working to help companies around the world managing their climate risk and address global warming through the Climate Ambition Accelerator Program. The data confirms that Spanish Global Compact members are leading the way in climate action initiatives, representing 73 of Spanish companies that have set science-based targets, 94% of the best-performing Spanish companies in the CDP Climate Alice survey, and over 200 companies registered in the Carbon Footprint Register of the Spanish Climate Change Office. In a complicated environment where companies are increasingly exposed to a multitudinary socio-political risk, climate risks are not far behind. The global nature of the problem for us to offer a global solution where the power of positive influence of companies reach all their stakeholders, especially their suppliers, aware of external pressure and the adverse effects of climate change on their business. More and more companies consider this fight as a priority business issue. I hope this event will spur you to continue working in the ambition that is needed. It's now or never. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Clara. I think that's a very good way to start. And I did not forget to introduce myself. I will do that when the time comes. But now I would like to invite Miguel Arroyo, Project Officer for Environment at the UN Global Compact Spain, and he will share some insights about climate action in Spanish companies. Miguel, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Lucas. Thank you very much, Clara. It's a pleasure to be here today. Yes, as already told Lucas, we are going to talk about the Climate Yearbook. It's a collaboration with ECODES, where we analyze for 4 consecutive years the principal initiatives here in Spain. We have analyzed science-based targets, CDP, and the Spanish Register of Carbon Footprint. As you know, science-based target is aligned with the 1.5 degree with the Paris Accord. And also we have CDP, that it's a report of climate risk. And finally, we have our national carbon footprint register. Well, as already Clara said, we have many companies in UN Global Compact Spain that are leading these 3 initiatives. We have 23% that are committed with the science-based target, and more than 80% already set as a science-based target aligned with the 1.5 degree. Also with CDP, already Clara said too, we have an 86% that are rated in the CDP standard, and 94% of the companies that are in the highest top of CDP are UN Global companies. So our companies are leading this initiative. And finally, you have more than 200 companies in the Spanish Register of Carbon Footprint. Well, I would like to focus my part, then Philippine will talk you about CDP and also our Spanish National Register. I would like to focus on the science-based target because we reckon it's the main important initiative talking about climate action. No? This year we have more than 6,000 companies that already committed with the science-based targets, and it's huge because it's more than 3,000 from last year. No? So 3,000 more companies are committed with this initiative. And if we talk about the ranking, the 15 companies that are in the top, we have in the first position UK. And why we have UK in the first position? Because the government already pushed the companies to achieve this initiative. No? So it's really important that the governments try to push and try to help companies to be aligned with the 1.5 degree to set the targets. Well, we are in the 12th position. It's a really good position if we compare these quite huge countries. And as you can see, we have many EU states that are in the top, so EU companies are leading this initiative. Talking about Spain, we have 132 companies that already committed with the initiative, and we have more than the half that already set a target, so are quite good results. And I would like to talk also about business sector, because today we have many different companies from many different sectors. So I would like to focus on which are the sectors that are in the top globally and nationally. No? If we talk about globally, we have 3 sectors that are leading the initiative. We have in the top, we have the professional services, we have the software, and we have the textile. But if we talk about Spain, we will talk about during the panel, we have energy that is in the top of our national science-based target companies, and also we have other like automobiles or transport that's also leading this initiative. Finally, I would like to talk with you. Maybe later Tracy will talk more about the methodologies. No, science-based study had few methodologies for specific sectors in order to achieve easily for them the science-based targets. Well, talking about the IBEX 35, about the main index markets, I reckon it's really interesting for all of us because maybe few of your companies are inside it or you work with them for sure. So it's really important to know that our main principal index is in the top with the CAC 40 and with the DAX 40, with the French and German market index, and it's huge, no? Because our companies are leading also this initiative. We have more than the half companies of the IBEX 35 are committed with the science-based target, and more than 30 already set a target. So it's huge to have these numbers in our main index because they are going to bring their supply chain, they are going to bring these objectives to the whole supply chain, and it's really important for us. And I would like to focus also for the SMEs because we come from the IBEX 35 and we need to talk also about the SMEs. And we reckon that science-based targets have removed a barrier for SMEs because this year we have 1,500 more SMEs in the science-based target, and it's really important data to know how it's important for science-based target to include the SMEs. And talking about Spain, we have the same results. We have triplicated the number of SMEs in Spain, and 88% of the Spanish SMEs already set a target aligned with the 1.5 degrees. And finally, I would like to give you a few conclusions about my presentation. I would like to focus that science-based target is leading the climate action, is the main important initiative. The European countries are leading this initiative with Spain in the 12th position. That is a really good result. And also about 2023 was the year for SMEs and for sectoral guidance. And finally, the simplified process for SME was really important for them to enter to break this barrier. And finally, the Climate Ambition Accelerator that Lucas will talk about was the key for us, for UN Global Compact, to help companies to achieve these objectives and to be committed with this initiative. And that's all my part. I will give the floor to Lucas that will present the next part. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Miguel. Now I would like to invite Philippine manager. She's the project officer for Ambition COP at ECODES, and she will share some insights about climate action as well. Over to you, Philippine.
Thank you, Lucas, and thank you, Miguel, for your the first part of this presentation. So I will share with you a bit more about CADP and what's going on with the Spanish Registry Office. I know it's a lot of data, so please bear with me. I will try to be brief and to just highlight the more important thing. So if we're already talking about CADP, you can see that in 2022, 80,600 companies joined the CDP initiative and took the survey. So it's a huge number at global level. And we can see that 33 more companies were ranked into the A list, like the highest scale of climate action within the CDP platform. So we are seeing that we are progressing into climate action, and at a Spanish level, where Spain is ranking into the 15th position at global level with 69 companies at global level, and we are seeing that we are still beyond United States and Japan, but we are growing and taking momentum. At Spanish level, we are, I'm seeing it. We are seeing that Spanish within the A list, the highest list, Spanish is ranking in the 5th position. So we are even higher in the I list with 18 companies. So it's a very big news for Spanish companies. And if we are talking about sectors, so it's a bit different than the SATI targets, because if at global level there are a lot of capital goods sectors and financial sectors, for Spanish companies we are more talking about financial sectors, yes, but also electricity and infrastructure. But the big difference with global companies and other countries' companies is that we are not seeing the more polluting sectors within the A list of Spanish companies. So it means that for Spain we still have to improve the inclusion and the participation of these high polluting companies. And if we are talking about the IBEX, so there are more IBEX companies that were compromised with the CDP climate index, but not all IBEX companies, so it's a bit of shame, but we are seeing that in terms of climate action, they are better ranking than the average Spanish companies. And just to share with you some conclusion that you can already understand with these numbers is that the participation is higher, the improvement is there, but we are still a bit of way to go. And if we are talking about the Spanish register or the carbon footprint, so we are saying that it's the same thing that the CDP index, that more companies, more Spanish companies registered their footprint, their carbon footprint, and they are more active, more compromised. We are saying that within the total of entities that register their carbon footprint, 90% were companies. So we are saying that companies are really more involved, and it's a total of 2,033 companies that calculated their carbon footprint, but only 366 reduce their emissions. So in terms of this reduction of emission, we are seeing that we still have a lot to do, even if we are seeing an improvement. And if we are talking about sectors, and just to conclude with the sectors, so it's a bit of the same. IBEX are really present. We are seeing that 40% of e-based companies have registered their carbon footprint, but the majorities of Spanish companies that register their carbon footprint are SMEs. So we cannot forget the importance of SMEs within the Spanish economies. And we are also, we can also see that the scope 3 is still not enough taking into account. So we have only 15% of companies that have included this scope 3, and only 29% of them that have asked for the verification of their carbon footprint. So it's a good action, but it's still not enough. And so if I can conclude really briefly, we can see that we are growing, we are taking momentum, but we need to reinforce this action. And we can't consider the carbon footprint calculation as a climate action. It's a first step, it's a good one, it's a good picture of what we have to do, but then we need a decarbonization plan, we need a roadmap with actual action and implementation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Pequeños y medianos.
So to wrap up this first part and start our nice panel, I think now it's time to introduce myself. So my name is Lucas. I work at the UN Global Compact, leading the Climate Ambition Accelerator. We heard here about science-based targets, CDP, and the UN Global Compact. And it's a very interesting mix to connect to our panel because the Global Compact, WRI, WWF, and CDP, we are the founding partners of the Science-Based Targets Initiative that in a summary tries to translate all the science that is available out there into actionable business targets, corporate targets, in a pathway to reduce emissions and limit global warming to up to 1.5 degrees. We will have Tracy speaking more about the science-based targets in more depth, but just to start the conversation, I think the first questions that we have here will be about science-based targets. So we saw here in the yearbook that the energy sector is standing out in terms of participation, in terms of companies taking action, committing and setting science-based targets. But we see that at the global level, the situation is a little bit different, and the energy sector is lagging a little bit behind. So I would like to start asking Yolanda from EDP, Mercedes from Redea, and Tracy from Science-Based Targets. Why do you guys think that we can see this difference between what is happening in Spain and around the other countries in the world? And if Tracy more specifically could provide some insights about the global projections, what is expected for the energy sector, and then of course if Mercedes and Yolanda want to present their perspectives as well regarding Spain, you are welcome to do so. So first, why do we see this difference between Spain and the rest of the world, and what are the future projections for both scenarios here as well? If we can start with Yolanda.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This is not the question you sent us.
Sorry, I understood that was Tracy once
Sorry. Let's start with Yolanda. Sorry about that.
Okay. Well, I can think that the energy sector has a main role in all this decarbonization process. So basically, I think that the companies in Spain we're really concerned about decarbonization, and that's why we've taken a step ahead and established these commitments. Why the difference? Well, I don't know if the geography is really very important, because we are multinational companies, so we set our commitments for all our activities throughout the world. So we're really thinking globally, because we work in different markets. We are in Brazil, we are in the United States, throughout Europe, also in APAC. And well, really we're trying to lead the energy transition, and when we are thinking about what we need to do, we are committed to close coal-fired stations by 2025, be 100% renewable by 2030, and net zero by 2040. So it really doesn't matter where it is happening, because it will happen all at the same time, because we are developing these commitments in all the geographies.
Mercedes, if you want to complement as well.
Well, I don't have much to add. I could only say that in Spain, we are probably in a very good position regarding renewable generation and clean energy. That might be one reason why we are in the top of the energy sector compared to the rest of the world. We are now having 40% renewable energy in electricity in general, and we think we are going to achieve the 50% this year. And we have a very ambitious objective of 74% 2030. That will probably be 81% if the new plan is approved next year. So that could be also a reason. I think more that is something regarding Spanish commitment and energy companies' commitment. But this situation could also have something to do with our leadership.
That's very interesting. And Tracy, about the rest of the world, the global projections and perceptions, what is your opinion on that?
Yeah, just an observation on Spain before the world. Leadership is so important. Mm-hmm. It's so important. And yes, Spain is part of the EU, and you have CSRD, and you have a good enabling environment, which I'm going to talk about, the importance of the enabling environment. But even in the face of a difficult enabling environment, leadership can, maybe not overcome barriers, but put the barriers right at front and center, convene the right players, and say, we have to address this. So I think I want to applaud the Spanish energy sector for standing up and really showing leadership that the rest of the world can look at. And then if we look at just making the link to the global projections, yes, we expect to see 50% renewable energy in Spain this year. In the world, McKinsey predicts that by 2040 we'll have the bulk, which just means 51%, right? The bulk of energy provided by solar and wind combined. And you said 2030, Spain will have 84%, right? More. So, you as a country, you're a decade ahead of the predictions for the rest of the world. Maybe more than a decade ahead, maybe 15 years. And so I don't, SBTi doesn't know any better than anyone else how which of the scenarios that we see from the UN, from the International Energy Agency will play out. What we know is that when we talk to energy companies around the world who are considering setting science-based targets, the number one concern they have is the supply of renewable energy, so Spain has nailed that, and the enabling environment, in particular the regulatory environment. So they say to us, oh, well, what you're asking us to do is not possible because, we are regulated to carry gas in our pipelines, right? We are regulated to supply whatever energy hits our networks, it has to go to the consumers, right? And this is, of course, when the companies tell us that, we know that it's true. It's not the role of Science-Based Targets Initiative to be advocating to government X or Y for policy A or B, but it is our role to understand that there is a gap today between what energy companies can do in the environment that they're in and what would be necessary, not particular policies, but for barriers to disappear. And so we hope to see leadership from the sector for the companies that have managed to maybe work with or provide some peer-to-peer mentoring to the others, and for the leaders that are here at COP and back home in their countries to really understand that a regulatory environment that is friendly to the transition is absolutely necessary.
That's amazing. And when we talk about the energy transition, unfortunately, it's not for free. So we will need investments, we will need the capital markets, we need financial institutions working with us there. We have here Etienne representing Santander. And we saw that in the yearbook, we have a very interesting representation of financial institutions, companies from the financial sector in the CDP index, the A-list, the highest tier of performance in CDP. And Etienne, what does CDP means to financial institutions? What is the value of that index, and why is it a benchmark for the financial sector?
Thank you very much, Lucas, and thank you for the invitation to this panel. Good morning, everybody. I would like to just start with two things, remarks on CDP. When this started in 2000, over 23 years, it has proven to be still the index of reference on climate. So it is a very useful tool for us. It has a very strong weight behind more than 750 institutional investors. We all know that, no? So there's good reasons for that to be a good tool. I would say that for us is useful in three ways. As you were saying, as a benchmark, yes, we can compare ourselves to our peers. We can see how we're progressing. Sometimes it's a bit challenging because this tool was not born for financial institutions. Now there is specific questionnaire, if you want, for financial institutions, but in the meantime, we have had challenges of having to respond to questions that are not necessarily that well fitted to us. Still, you know, using this as a benchmark, I think it has been useful. But I would say there's two more reasons that are perhaps even more important than the previous one. The second one is that it helps us as a beacon. It helps us look at what is next in regards to the climate agenda. What are the next questions that we need to be asking ourselves, and we need to be thinking internally with the teams inside and so on. So I don't know, maybe the question the first year was, do you have a policy? 3 years later it is, do you have these elements in your policy? No, you have targets. And then later is, tell me these details about your targets. So that way of thinking helps us a lot in develop this and helps us develop the conversation internally within the bank. And the final one, I would say, is a source of data. We are both, no? We are assessed by this tool, but we use it as well to assess our clients. We need to remember that for us, achieving net zero is our clients achieving net zero. No? That's a key statement. No? So with 23,000 companies reporting to CDP, for us, is a very good source of information. It is not perfect. There are many companies in our portfolios that are not there, maybe because they don't have a regulatory environment that requires them for disclosure. There are state companies that have no obligation. But what we've seen is that it has been useful and is increasingly useful. So that's, I would say, is the role.
That's very, very interesting that you mentioned. I think transparency and being able to disclose what you are doing, disclose your next steps, disclose what is already happening is very important, so we all know what is happening. And when we talk about transparency, it's important to be transparent about our ambition and our targets and what we are doing. And companies that are taking action, companies that have these advanced practices, they are well assessed at CDP. So CDP has a scale of scores where companies get scores from D until A, the highest score. And Redea and Banco Santander, they have obtained this highest rating in the CDP climate score, climate index. And of course, they are included then in the A list of CDP. What aspects, Mercedes and then Etienne, what aspects do you consider have been decisive for your organization to achieve this rating as the whole company? What were the main aspects that led your companies to get this amazing score, the A list at CDP?
I think this is quite a difficult question because if you know CDP, to be in the A list, you have to be almost perfect because you have to be good at everything, governance, risk, opportunities, targets, emission reduction. So it's very difficult to choose the aspects that have been the most important to be in the A list. But I was listening to you before, and there are some things that I think there have been very important. I think one is ambitious targets. We have targets aligned with 1.5 since two years ago on the net zero last year. Another thing is transparency. I think transparency regarding mainly with climate-related risk is important because it's not always easy to report all this kind of information. And the third one, I think, is scope 3. You were telling that is the less mature aspect in general about CDP. I think we have a good policy regarding scope 3. We report all the categories from a long time ago. We verified all the categories, and we are working hard in two ways with our main suppliers. We are working with them to improve the quality and quantity of direct information that we use to report. That is important. We now are reporting 10% of direct information, which could seem not much, but it is, because the effort is quite big. And then we are working with them to involve them in SBTI targets. We are trying our main suppliers to have and to commit with SBTI targets. We have an objective to have 2/3 of our supply chain in terms of emissions with SBTI targets in 2025. So I think this is a bit of a difference with respect to the other.
Thank you very much. Etienne?
Yes, I mean, I coincide with Mercedes. It's not an easy question. No, it's not an easy question. I mean, especially when you look at ESG ratings, so many of them are, I would say, kind of black boxes. Good thing about CDP is that there is some transparency and good level of transparency, I would say, about what are the expectations in regards to the questions that you're being asked. No? So that helps a lot, understanding what are your weaknesses, what are your strengths, where are you, and what you need to move. No, so having said that, it requires. If your question was what has made you go there, is first putting a lot of time in understanding that, a lot of time in understanding what exactly do they want me to say here. Is it what I read in the question, or is it what there is in the guidance? It is what it is in guidance. So that is very important. If I was to say about three things specifically, I mean, we have improved a lot in governance, embedding more things formally in regards to climate. That is there. For us, risk management is very important. Incorporating that into BAU has been important. But I would say perhaps the most important one is the inclusion of portfolio impact category in this. And this relates to, as Mercedes was saying, our targets. We have committed to net zero by 2050. We have joined the Net Zero Banking Alliance, which is perhaps the alliance that gathers most banks. 40% of the banking assets are in that alliance. And we have already set targets in the most emitting sectors. No? So being able to incorporate that and show that as part of your not only commitment, but the way that you're moving in that direction, I think it has been a key part of this. But I would go back to putting the time to understand what really is the question, what really is the expectation.
And I have to acknowledge that I have not been fair with the question. I know it's not a simple question. If you guys are not aware, CDP guidance is a document with, I don't know, 600, 700 pages. So it is a lot of things to understand. It's a lot of things to study. And yes, you have to put a lot of time, but thank you very much for your insights. Now moving back to SBTI, the initiative has been growing rapidly in the recent years. The progress reports are always amazing, exponential numbers we can see in the growths. And EDP, Redeia, you guys have science-based targets. And Tracy also, of course, represents the science-based targets. What are the main milestones, the main achievements? What are the main the main benefits that you guys as companies can see from science-based targets, and of course, Tracy, what are the main milestones that science-based targets is achieving, moving forward and growing as an initiative and getting more and more company. If we can start with Yolanda.
Well, I think the best thing of science-based target methodology is the credibility that you get once you declare your commitments and they are recognized by or verified or approved by SBTi. Because we're really talking every year with our investors, with the capital markets. So we have to show what we are going to do in decarbonizing our activities. And well, as you know, PowerPoint presentations holds everything. So you need someone, an independent body that is able to prove that that's what you're saying is really consistent with the 1.5 degrees commitment. So I think the basic one is the credibility that you get from this recognition. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Mercedes?
Yes, it's almost the same. It's credibility, and it's also kind of uniformity, I would say, because once you have SBTA, the other knows that you have a minimum ambition, and some external people is the one who is saying that you have this minimum ambition, and I think it's nice to be credible, but also standardization is something that is difficult to find in this world of reporting emissions and targets, and SBTi, it's a kind of standardization that is also very welcome. Yeah.
That's good. Tracy?
Okay, so there was a lot of points in your question. In terms of the historical growth of the SBTi, of course, we are very, that is very much to do with the founding partners that we have, who established the initiative now 10 years ago. We're coming up on our 10-year anniversary, and who really went out to their networks and explained why this was so important. And then, especially in the cases of CDP and UN Global Compact, provided a lot of guidance and support to companies to help them understand what would be the steps to take, understanding the methodology and help, in some cases, even hand-holding companies to set science-based targets. So it's to the founding partners' credit that we have grown so rapidly. In terms of milestones, I think maybe many people know that the SBTi is now spinning off from the founding partners from an initiative into becoming an independent entity. We've established a nonprofit entity based in the UK that will be the first holder of SBTi staff. Over time, that will split into a standard setting organization and a validation services organization. It's a very common structure in the UK that a charity has a commercial arm that provides fee-based services and then spreads this, passes the revenue for those services on to the charity to support the charity's operations. So we'll be following that model. In terms of historical milestones, of course, the first methodology that we put out in the world, the first 100 companies that were validated, that was back in, 2019. And then in the interim period, we have had every year new products that come out. We've got sector guidance, which is, of course, very important, that sectors that can't follow the cross-sector pathway get their own methodology. And not even 2 years ago, we hired our first CEO, Luis Amaral, and we have this year established an actual proper board. So from the advisory board that was made up of our founding partners to an independent board that has 3 new members and also continues to have representation from our board. When we look forward, you didn't ask about forward, but when we look forward, next steps, this year, next year, you will see a real increase in the sector guidance and other types of guidance that we put out. We're putting a lot of investment into the resources to make that possible. We are upgrading our process for developing new standards and guidance. So we have a fantastic chief compliance officer who's joined us from Fair Trade. And she is really, ensuring that the process we follow is to the highest standard of any international standard setter. So improving that. we are strengthening the validation services so that the time to get validated has gone from, at one point, pushing half a year, now down to 60 days. And on my team, I'll just put a little plug for outreach and engagement. I have one of my team members here. We are investing in additional resources to be able to strengthen the relationship that we have with our founding partners and to extend that out in particular to high impact sectors in high impact countries. We'll be working with industry associations, both broadly, like this morning I met someone from a big industry association in India, to sector associations like cement, shipping, transport, etc. So that's where we've been and where we're going.
That's amazing. Thank you very much. And Etienne, you mentioned, when you were talking about CDP, you mentioned that when a bank, for example, when Santander is answering, responding the questionnaire, you are assessed, you are also benchmarked against other peers, and you use that to benchmark other companies and assess other companies, for example, for the portfolio. Do financial institutions take into account the level of ambition that companies have, for example, in terms of CDP, SBTi, the carbon footprint registry that we saw earlier as well? Do financial institutions take this kind of climate ambition, climate action into account when including or not businesses in their portfolio for investments?
Thanks, Lucas. I'm not sure how much of the previous answers you heard, but now I'm sure you do. So, I mean, there are different processes in which the bank assesses their clients in their environmental performance. No? For example, we have our environmental, social, and climate change policy, so we need to ensure that our clients meet that policy. We have annual reviews that incorporate a number of factors like this. But the process that maybe I would like to describe a little bit better is the one that we follow when we are assessing the clients that are part of the portfolios that we have targets for. Now, we have set targets for oil and gas, for power generation, for steel, for aviation, and then we have a coal phase-out target. So for all of those sectors, we have developed an approach in which we assess how our clients are moving in that direction. No? So very briefly, is composed of two parts. One part that looks at the GHG emission profile of our clients. So what are their emissions today? What are their intended emissions in future, i.e. their targets? And how does that align to our own targets? No, so with that we have a score. No, of course, to know that the first question, what are their GHG emissions? We need CDP, so we use CDP for that. No, the second part is assessing the quality of their transition plans. No, whether they call it transition plans or not. No, but we assess their ambition, so the targets actually wider than just the GHG based. We assess the way that they have converted those targets into action plans. How concrete are they in going in that direction? How they're disclosing this information, whether they're being transparent on this, and the governance they have behind this. And for this second part, of course, when we look at the target side and the ambition, there's an element there that looks at SBTi. So within our assessment, we have the need for looking at information on CDP and SBTi in this. Ultimately, what we have from here is our portfolio divided into 4 tiers. Our clients are either tier 1 leaders, tier 2, 3, or tier 4 weak. No? And that helps us work with them, support them in the transition, hopefully helping them to get from tier 4 to 3 to 2 to 1. No? And this tiering system with all the information that is behind this is the basis of setting our own risk appetite for this. You know that for banks, setting risk appetite statements is the key, is what directs your capital flows and so on. So we use all of this information to set our risk appetite as part of this process.
Amazing, thank you very much. Unfortunately, we are approaching the end of our panel, so there will be a last question for all our panelists here. So drawing from your personal knowledge, your personal and professional, of course, knowledge and experience, what are the top 3 recommendations? I know there are many, but what are the top 3 recommendations to accelerate investments, to accelerate efforts in the green agenda, to achieve this proposed? For example, we heard earlier at COP that we have to propose to triple renewable energy capacity by 2030. So what are the top 3 recommendations in this road forward towards more renewable, more sustainable and more renewable energy supply to the whole world? I would like to start, I think, from this order, so starting with Yolanda and then moving along of the part.
Well, as you say, we could say hundreds of recommendations, but if we will need to choose 3, I would say maybe the first one will be a stable regulatory framework. The second one, find a way to have a more agile permitting process. And the third one, to work in the social acceptance of the projects, because I think that these three topics are crucial to accelerate the transition. Otherwise, it will be impossible to reach this amount of renewable power inside and in time.
Well, we are from the same industry, so the answer is quite similar. Well, I'm going to focus on our activities at this transmission and operation of electricity system. We always say that to integrate all the renewable energy and to integrate them in a safety, secure way, we need grids. So we have to develop the grid. Without grid, there are no renewable energy, so we need the grid. And in the same way as Yolanda was saying, the permitting process should be improved, because if we build a renewable and we don't bring the grid, it's not going to be possible. So it's more or less the same answer.
Thank you very much. Tracy?
Yeah, so you asked for our personal thoughts, and so this is my personal thought, not a policy statement from the SBTi. But my personal thought is that we need the governments that are here at COP to commit to and agree to and put in writing that we will quickly phase out fossil fuels. And that, still in the first point, has to be translated into regulatory frameworks and especially Global North investments in making that happen. 2, we need to recognize that for that to happen, we have to decrease demand across the energy sector, which means that we have to really think what's mission critical use for energy and what is, maybe a little bit of a luxury. And to really start talking about demand reduction, it means efficiencies in our homes. I live in the UK. We have very, very cold and drafty houses, and we need to close them up. In Spain, maybe we need to have shades to protect from the sun. So we need to think about how are we, in every aspect, decreasing demand on our energy system so that we can transition. And then we need the finance, which I know the banks are up for, right? If the world said we're phasing out fossil fuels, the money from the banks would flow to the renewable energy system. These guys are here to serve us. So this is my belief, right? They are serving what the global economy needs. So that's my 3.
So it's interesting, very aligned. I think the first answer for everybody, and I include myself, is to have the right policy framework. Without the right policy framework, it's going to be extremely difficult. It won't be possible. No? So I think we all agree that we need results from exercises like is happening here at COP, and that will help us for sure in our case to direct capitals in the right direction. No? I want to say something super simple next, but for us it's critical. Measure. If I'm setting a target on a sector where a number of my clients have not measured, I cannot set a target on something that doesn't move. That the only thing that makes it move is my exposure to them. It means reducing business. That's not what we want. No, we want them to be able to demonstrate that their they're reducing. I say this not in the context necessarily of Spain. It's a global company, a bank operating in many countries, and therefore that is important. And then another one is the alignment of frameworks. I think we have been talking a lot about this. Regulations are trying to be interoperable. I think there is still some way to go a little bit on that end. Yeah.
Very important. Thank you very much. So just to wrap up from what I got from your points here, I think transparency, reporting, telling everyone what you are doing, what you want to do, what are your plans, is very important. Having the support from governments, it is very important as well. So you have this enabling environment to take action. And of course, having the ambition. So using and answering this enabling environment and being transparent about your ambition, I think this can be a very good recipe to move forward. And at this COP, I am trying to steal a lot of quotes from people, but I have a very bad memory, so I remember the quotes, but not the people. But one person from Schneider Electric, I just know the company, said that energy, we talk about energy transition, energy is the crossroads between progress and sustainability. We have 3 billion people that need to have access to energy. They still don't have access to electricity, for example. And how can we provide these people with energy and also reduce emissions, keep being sustainable? So I think this idea of the transition, the energy sector playing an important role connects very well with that. Another quote that I heard at a meeting with the Secretary General high-level expert group about integrity and ambition of climate targets is that the easiest way to kill net zero is greenwashing. The easiest way to kill everything that we are discussing here is greenwashing. And the easiest way to fight greenwashing is being transparent and being ambitious. So we know our common enemy, we know what is lurking around and trying to undermine our actions here, and we know how to face it, how to tackle this. So I think it's very important that we were talking here during the panel about transparency. And the final quote that I cannot miss is from the Secretary General himself, that governments and non-state actors, they have to act together. They have to, governments create this enabling environment, creating mechanisms for business to take action, and business, we have to respond to this urgent challenge. This is the hardest challenge that humanity has faced so far. So we have to step up and answer at the same height of the challenge that we are facing right now. So I think this wrap up with these very nice quotes that I will have to find out who actually said all of them, except the Secretary General, and an amazing panel with our panelists. We still have a few time left from our original scheduled time, so I will invite you all here in the audience after we wrap up here to reach out to Yolanda Fernandez, Director of Environment and Sustainability and Innovation at EDP. Also, we have Mercedes Vasquez, Manager for Climate Change at Redea. We have Trace Wyman, Head of Outreach and Engagement at the SBTI, and Etienne Boutril, Climate and Nature Director at Santander, the Bank Santander. So try to catch a name, try to catch them at some point here. Keep this conversation going, and again, let's not let greenwashing kill net zero. Let's win this battle, okay? Thank you very much. Let's hear from our panelists.
Thank you. That's it.